Welcome everyone to episode 4 of the Zelda Book Club. We've been going through the Ocarina of Time manga and been giving our thoughts on it. Today's episode is about the final chapter in the child era of the book. The hero of time is born. Now we've moved on to the adult portion, which is called The Hero of Time.
Yeah.
And we read chapter 1 in The Hero of Time, which is called The Sword of Legend, The Master Sword. The titling and chaptering is really confusing in this.
They really could have made this one chapter. I think they wanted to keep the chapters roughly 20 pages, so people can read it in one sitting right before they go to bed or something.
This is kind of funny because in the last episode we said this should have been 2 chapters.
Oh, the previous one?
In the previous episode, yeah.
Well, this one, it was a very similar theme. And plus one thing that was confusing a little bit. This is part 1 of the manga, and it's got young Link on there. And then part 2 of the manga has adult Link. But there are, I think, 3 chapters or whatever from the adult Link portion that are in book 1. So more of the book takes place as an adult.
And isn't the first part, the child part, just called Ocarina of Time?
Consistency. So it's like...
First part, Ocarina of Time. Next part is Hero of... Yeah.
So the first 6 chapters of the manga are called Ocarina of Time. And then chapters 1 to 4 in this book, and presumably chapters 5 to 10 in the other book are called Hero of Time.
Okay, enough complaining about the... Chapter 6. I think it starts with a pretty awesome opening scene, though.
We get left off with Hyrule is burning, and it's really different from the game, actually.
Yeah, there's people fleeing the city. There's dead bodies all over.
It's like a massacre. It's like they're invading the castle.
What it looked like in a panel, there were guards being turned into Stalfos. Was that what was happening?
I'm not sure if I saw that.
They were all doing this, and then the next but I couldn't tell what was happening to them.
Okay.
And then the next panel was Stalfos being so.
But yeah, maybe that was what was going on. I did see some guards just on the floor on the staircase. There was a panel it just shows the stairs, and there's a dead guard or a wounded guard.
When we see Ganondorf, he has one of the darkest quotes ever too.
Oh, with about the king?
He says, "I put the king to sleep forever."
Murder! Is that a way of he didn't want to say I killed the king?
Yeah.
Nobody ever dies in Nintendo.
Yeah.
They get put to sleep.
Or turned into Stalfos, I guess.
Yeah. And you see the emotion of Zelda on her face.
And it was cool, Impa there protecting.
Impa had a sword. One panel looked like he was holding Zelda hostage.
Well, it was holding Zelda and took out a Stalfos with the other arm, with one arm. That was pretty impressive.
But he had a sharp blade and it was holding Zelda tight. It was you come any closer and she's gonna get it. That's what I was picturing. Take a look at that panel again with her holding the knife, and it just looks weird.
Impa took care of the Stalfos, but then when Link got his opportunity, it was comically bad.
They did a good job with panning. They were at on the top of the castle or something. You can see in the distance Ganondorf, Impa, and Zelda, and then Link is trying to get there. And then there's a staircase he's got to go down. And then later on we see he's going down that staircase.
Yeah.
And that's where he encounters the Stalfos. So it's you can actually picture a mental map of this of getting from point A to point B. So the Stalfos is trash talking him a little bit.
It's pretty funny actually. Which is there's a scene of people dying and the king had been killed, and then all of a sudden there's this wisecracking he's not wisecracking, but trash talking Stalfos.
Yeah, I don't remember what he said exactly. It was just
I don't either.
You're not getting by me or something.
We talked in the last chapters how there was this progression of how quickly he took care of these bosses, but now this Stalfos is really giving him trouble for some reason.
Well, he doesn't know it's giving him trouble. He tries to go right at him.
Yeah, he does slash off some of his arms and stuff, right?
It seems kind of ambiguous who won this battle. Link was able to get by, but he broke his Deku shield.
Deku shield burnt.
He's no, my shield.
Yeah.
So the Stalfos clearly doesn't die. That Stalfos is still around. Link got through him, but it took a shield to get through him. Nobody won.
They got to walk away, and the the feud can build.
Yeah. They're building storyline for a future chapter.
So then we got it was a more iconic scene from the game of Zelda and Impa fleeing.
This is probably the most iconic scene in the whole game. That takes place right outside the castle gate. Although there's some differences here.
Before he even meets Ganondorf, Link just gets the Ocarina of Time.
Yeah, she throws it, and it just lands right on the gateway. And Link just goes and picks it up. And then immediately when he picks it up, apparently, that's when Ganondorf comes riding on his dark horse, and he's like, "Give it to me!" Like he wants the Ocarina. And Link gets up on his sword and tries to fight him.
When he encounters Link, there was a line about how he knows that he can't be a Kokiri.
But then he was like standing up for his pride. I'm a Kokiri. Then he just gets beat up, falls to the ground. Mm-hmm. I think he gets back up and he goes up at him again.
Yeah.
I think he knocks him down twice. In the pan, he makes I think it's sort of like in the scene where he makes like a fireball or something. And
yeah, he hits him with a fireball.
And this caused Link to drop an Ocarina. In the game, you kind of wonder what happened to the fairy Ocarina. It's like superseded, and therefore this doesn't need to exist anymore. This gives reasoning for it. Ganondorf stole the fairy Ocarina, thinking it was the Ocarina of Time. And I like how even after the second time Link gets knocked down, I think Ganondorf rides off at this point. There's a scene that shows him with a close-up of his hand gripping the grass.
Yeah, that was awesome.
It's a little detail, but I like it.
So then he heads for the Temple of Time.
It plays out almost identically to the game. He plays the Ocarina. It shows the three spiritual stones.
He said something about, the song Zelda taught me, the Song of Time. In the game, you learn Zelda communicates with you, right, through the Ocarina. This didn't have that scene, but also I tried to go back and find a scene of her teaching him the Song of Time.
I wonder if this is an instance where the manga is taking liberties knowing that people understand the game.
Oh, we get to see him talk to Rauru a little bit in this chapter. He pulls the Master Sword. There's another part that I took slight issue with. They give Link a more in-depth backstory of his origin, but it starts with long ago, before Hyrule Kingdom was unified, and then they go into this story about how his father helped take place in this battle to unify Hyrule. And I'm thinking, okay, so it would have been how old is he at this point?
Link?
Yeah.
Yeah, this was like 15 years ago then or something.
Yeah. So I feel like Rauru is taking great liberties with the term long ago.
Yeah, especially in the Zelda sense. Long ago is usually some multiple of 10,000 years or something.
I don't know if they ever refer to Hyrule as such in this book, but oftentimes people say, Hyrule is a peaceful land, and then Ganondorf or Ganon shows up and messes things up. But
not too long ago.
Yeah, like Ganondorf would have probably still been an adult.
I overlooked that a little bit. So Link's father was a knight, basically, in the royal army or whatever, and was killed.
And his mother was badly hurt too.
So it was like an elaborate... We got a glimpse of the second portion of this backstory at the very beginning of the game, of the manga, where it shows Link's mom just like sleeping in front of the Deku Tree. There's a few sketches of baby Link. Baby and like infant Link, I think he's getting a little older. It's just like he's being raised by the Deku Tree. It's so stereotypical. It's like baby Link, but he's still got the green tunic and everything. It reminds me of like when people do like cosplays of their kids, of babies with Link costumes.
Yeah. The very end of this chapter, we see adult Link standing there in all his glory, and he's holding a Hylian shield.
Right. So, where did he get this thing from?
Well, people always talk about, they got Link clothes that fit him as an adult and all this stuff, but even now they've equipped him with some armor.
You could buy it from the bazaar, or you can get it from the graveyard. Maybe it's a 2-in-1. You get the Master Sword, it comes with a Hylian shield for free. It's part of the deal.
I don't know if they say this in the game, but Rauru says something like, "I've long since passed, but my spirit lives on." I don't remember if that's a thing in the game.
Yeah, I don't ever recall the sages being dead. Yeah, or if they're like ancient beings that are like their spirits are resurrected. I don't know. That might be getting too in depth.
It makes sense because he says like, being in the Chamber of Sages allows me to communicate with you. We haven't seen them yet, but in the game you communicate with all the other sages outside of the Chamber of Sages. Actually, you never communicate in the game with Saria outside of the Chamber of Sages.
Oh, what do you mean? You see her?
As an adult, I mean, right? Maybe she's dead.
Doesn't Mido, like, when you're trying to go through the Lost Woods, like, he, like, blocks you in the Lost Woods as an adult? Doesn't he say something like, "Where's Saria?" I don't remember what he says, but I remember he says something cryptic. Early on, he accused you of killing the Deku Tree. I don't know what he accuses you of this time.
Actually, he says something like regretting the way he treated Link. He thinks adult Link is a stranger, which I think is weird. I guess they're just not used to the Kokiri aging, so.
Yeah, he still thinks Link is a Kokiri. He doesn't know.
So that was The Hero of Time is Born, Chapter 6. That was pretty cool, I thought.
Yeah, it was a good chapter. Kind of in depth in a narrow area. They didn't go all over the world like in the previous few chapters.
Yeah, I preferred it over the last couple we read.
There was a lot more dialogue, a lot more character development.
That's what I'm really liking about these.
It almost directly carries over into chapter 7. The first scene is he walks out of the Temple of Time. And I have some like epic music playing in my head while I'm reading this. It shows Astolfo's fighting some I guess Hylian soldiers. Was it just one?
I think.
First thing comes to mind is why is this still going on? Has this guy just been fighting for 7 years? Has this not stopped? Like,
it's like maybe they sent another command of people in or something.
I always viewed in the game, when Link becomes an adult, Hyrule has been conquered, and everybody now lives under his rule.
Because, I guess because you go to Kakariko and it's still a little peaceful.
Yeah, but like you go to all the different areas of the world, and every one of them, it's like he's unleashed Volvagia and Death Mountain.
Yeah.
Zora's domain is frozen over. There's enemies all over the Kokiri Forest.
Right.
There's a monster in the Water Temple. Every one of them, it's... there's a person imprisoned in the Spirit Temple. Even Ingo controls the ranch.
Link, after the encounter with the Knight, he encounters the very same Stalfos.
And I like that. He was like, "You again." It's like this renewed rivalry from 7 years ago. And it just showed how much more powerful Link is now as an adult. Because as a kid, he got through him, sort of. He didn't defeat him. He lost his shield. And this time he just slaughters him with the Master Sword. And I like that the Stalfos don't die. They just, like, the head is detached from the rest of its body and it's still talking.
Even the Knight who is there remembers him as a kid.
He's like, "Yeah, you're the one who was causing trouble in the castle."
That's weird that he would remember that, I think. Okay, say in seven years from now, you have to go to war. Are you going to remember some bad, obnoxious day at work where you had to deal with some annoying kid
who's now 7 years older?
Are you gonna
looks nothing like him?
When we go into Castletown, I liked Navi was like overwhelmed by the evil presence there.
And Link is like, "If you're scared, just hide in my hat."
In the game, at the very end, Navi isn't able to help you, so I think this might be a little bit of foreshadowing for that. After she goes in his hat, we get this weird voiceover recap.
It's like a montage of everything we learned from the first 5 chapters. It shows Goma, and it shows meeting Princess Zelda, it shows Darunia, and shows Rudo. Like, it's literally a recap of the first 5 chapters in one page.
Now, we talked about the weirdness of the books in this. I would have understood maybe more if the adult section was just its own whole book, and they had it in there just in case you only had that book. But otherwise, I thought this didn't need to be there at all. The minute stuff we have could have been in the other chapter.
It was okay. It was not the worst thing in the world.
It didn't just ruin the book.
Out of place a little bit. Just a little bit. I like how Rauru gives him instruction. You got to go to the 5 temples.
Right.
To awaken the sages. And I like how when it shows that panel, you can tell who the sages are. It's like they're blacked out a little bit, but it's Darunia, it's Saria.
If you've played the game, you already know. If you haven't, which is kind of unlikely, it's cool to kind of get some little hints.
He ignores all of that instruction that he got, and he's going straight to the Ganon's Tower.
And that's when he encounters the Poe, which is no problem to him.
I like that the Poe is there, though.
Oh, yeah.
We're starting to see a lot of, like, we got the Stalfos in the previous chapter, we got the Poe in this chapter, so some of the more iconic enemies from the game are now making appearances.
They're laying out their intentions of being loyal to Ganondorf, so I thought that was cool. We're seeing he has these followers, just like some of the bosses in the previous chapters. They, like with Goma, right? They connected Goma with Ganondorf a little bit.
There was one interesting thing when he kills the Poe right away, but then Navi makes an observation like, "You're using the Master Sword's power or something." I'm like, what?
This is Breath of the Wild?
Yeah, that was immediately what I thought of. I'm like, oh, you can only kill a certain number of enemies, then you gotta, switch to... Yeah, but then they're like, well, you have to get stronger. So in the manga universe, does that mean like the more experience you have, the more power the Master Sword has? Maybe it's something along those lines.
I could see that. Also in the games, when you get a medallion, it says the sage adds their power to your own. You never know what that means.
Until the very end when they build a bridge.
They build a bridge. That's their power, to build a bridge.
They're the carpenters.
So I could see that maybe coming into effect.
So it's like each time he's going to get a little stronger.
Yeah.
I mean, he's getting like mentally stronger each time.
Yeah, he's a little less... It's a very serious situation, so he's been a little less childish. That's a thing I've been looking out for to see how his character develops. Basically, the final scene is Ganondorf realizing it's not the Ocarina, which I like. Doesn't he break it or something, too?
I don't know, but like, when did this take place? Is this happening in real time? Wouldn't that have happened the day after he got the Ocarina from Link, or like hours later? So I don't know if this is a flashback or not.
Because in the same scene, he's then talking to the Stalfos that Link defeated.
Oh yeah, there's like a panel where it shows a lot of the enemies too. Like
yeah,
his minions.
He's talking to the Stalfos and like all his minions, and we get Twin Rova is there.
I saw Twin Rova.
That was cool.
Were those just some Gerudos?
There were some Gerudos there, yeah.
Okay.
Maybe one... It would be cool, I think, if one ended up being Nabooru. Because part of her story in the game is she rebels against Ganondorf. So it would make sense if she was, like, more of a trusted person in his circle, But right now, it's hard to tell.
At the very end, he plays the Ocarina as well. And it shows... Is that Impa or is that Sheik that you see a glimpse of in one of the panels? It's like, ooh.
Right.
I think I've heard that song before or something like that.
Yeah, so Sheik is realizing that Link is now awakened or whatever.
Yeah, or this person who we don't know is Sheik. Spoilers!
We can talk some serious spoilers when it comes to Sheik, right?
Yeah.
Even though we were saying it could have been one chapter, I slightly preferred that over the Goron chapter that we did.
Right. If they made this one chapter and it was 20 pages, I meant more thematically it fit. A lot of backstory, a lot of dialogue, not much action, but a lot of character development. It was good. It was good pacing. A lot of stuff that differed from the game. A lot of new characters. Like, you never interact with a Poe like this or a Stalfos. So this is great. These were two of my favorite chapters, I think.
What are you looking out for going forward?
Well, I want to see where he goes. Are we going to get to see Kakariko Village in the next chapter?
To get the hook shot?
Are we going to get the hook shot? Is Dampé going to be in there? Or are we going straight to the Forest Temple?
Be interesting to see Dampé since he didn't go to Kakariko really at all as a kid.
We don't even know that village exists right now.
But we'll get more on Kakariko in the well.
I wonder what the order of dungeons they're going to choose. The intended order.
Do the fire temple first.
You know what I always do in first? I go straight to the ice cavern.
We were talking about looking out for how he gets his items. I like that we saw how he lost 2 items in this chapter.
The shield and So he's got, right now in his arsenal, he's got a slingshot, a boomerang, and a sword. In the game, he can't use his slingshot or his boomerang as an adult. According to the game's lore, he's got 0 items right now.
But we also saw him ride a horse as a child.
Right. I think we've seen the last of the boomerang. Maybe in the Spirit Temple.
Also, he has a Hylian shield now, which I presume he'll probably just use as a kid.
Maybe they won't even make reference to his lost Deku shield. And then we go back in the Spirit Temple in the bottom of the well.
And he's like, oh, the shield is too big.
Or he just has a Deku shield again, and they make no reference to it.
That seems like something that could happen in this.
I'm looking forward to the lack of continuity. So we'll read the next 2 chapters. They're still in the first book. The Sage of the Forest, Saria. And followed by An Old and Beloved Friend.
Read those chapters if you'd like to keep up with us. Leave a comment with your thoughts on this, and let us know if we missed anything you thought was important. And thank you for watching. If you want to subscribe to us, you can click our icon right here in the center. We have a series called Hyrule Compendium. You can click up here to get the playlist. Also, if you want to check out our podcast, click the video down here, and it's got another great playlist. Really interesting discussions. Our most recent one is the interview with the voice actor who played Rivali in Breath of the Wild, so that's pretty awesome. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you next time.